Good to go. Okay, preparing live stream. Likes to take its time for initially loading. Loading. Okay, it's live now. Okay. Oops. Okay. So hi everyone and welcome back to another live stream about saddle fit and talk. For those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, you can comment them in the sidebar, and then if we have time, we can also field the questions, but we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics related to saddle fit. And for those of you who haven't tuned in yet, this is Jochen Schleese. He's the owner of Schleese Saddlery and a master saddle fitter with a ton of knowledge on saddle fit and any repercussions that bad saddle fit can have. So we're going to learn lots. And yeah, whatever you would like to start with then today.
Okay, you sent me, or Mary Claire sent me a question already. You want to read it out loud, the first question for today, so the viewers can all
yeah, I can
see what it is?
Okay, so the first question that I had to do was talking about horses with kissing spine and how saddle fit can possibly cause kissing spine to happen, or how you would focus on saddle fit to help a horse with kissing spine be more comfortable.
Yeah, so the best way to explain something so people really understand it is I like to.
It froze for a second.
Chinese saying where they say, what you hear, you forget, what you see, you remember, but what you feel, you understand.
Yeah.
Now I see that your picture is frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yours is frozen on mine too. That's okay. Wait, it just came back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
So as I was saying, let me show a couple of pictures first, and then people have a better idea about kissing spine, because that's a word what is very often used in the lingo. And so I like to share a couple of pictures and a couple of slides. And for people can have kissing spine too. Okay, you'd always thinking it's just for humans, horses, but there's actually also for human who could have kissing spine, except we call it the Bastrop syndrome. Okay, so what happens is when we have a severe province in the back or we hyperextend, then these, see how they're all apart, these spinal processes, they touch and they rub each other. And that is super painful for people in the lower back. Many riders complain about lower back. And on the horse, it is actually quite dramatic. And sometimes you don't see it, okay? You start off by saying, hey, how come my horse is so uneven? Look at the right side versus the left side. Oh. Or when they start to lose all the muscles in here, okay? So they're compensating for something. Of course, you and I, we both grew up on horses, and there's never just the one answer. It's a multiple facet, there's multiple aspects. But let's say we looked after the shoeing and we looked after the feet, and we assume you have a good training program, regular, but my horse is just, no matter what I do, is really losing the pressure. So very often is the space of the vertebrae, okay, for hundreds and hundreds of years, saddleries never, ever were narrower than a man's hand width. This is a woman's hand width, and you can see barely 3.5 fingers fit between the two stuffed areas. Mm-hmm. So what you do, you already jeopardizing for the muscle to contract. So what muscle? Okay, so there's a very long muscle here on the back. And when the spine is not free, this long muscle can either stretch or pull. So this pulls when you hit the spine because the channel is not wide enough. So here you can see how the top muscle is contracted. Horse is going, we call that upside down, gets a shitty U-neck, loads his front leg a lot, and a hind leg is way out. If the top muscle, this muscle here, is stretched and the bottom muscle is contracted, then the stomach muscle pulls the haunches underneath, the hind leg underneath, carries more weight on the hind leg, lighter on the forehand. And the biggest part is all these bones, like on the human, I just showed you, the spinal processes, these points would stick up. They're all separating. Here you see a horse just ready to do a jump, or you see a horse what does a canter pirouette or sliding stop. When the horse is all the way collected, which means the hind leg is underneath the sternum, the entire horse is balancing itself now on this massive hind leg. And that is when the back is the most round. Okay, so as a day-to-day rider, we all know we don't want to break the horse's front legs. So the best way to do is back up, hind leg under. So when the back goes up, what is super, super important for the horse is he actually protects himself from getting rubbed on the spine, or we call it kissing spine. And it doesn't take long for the horse to tighten his back, because the only way to protect a back from getting injured is by, well, yeah, tighten the back. So if I make a tight muscle, then my back hollows. So here's a close-up from a vertebrae. So there is this muscle what gives the spine a strength. It's very sensitive and very thin. And if you have a saddle what has the channel too narrow, we call that clothespin fit. These muscle atrophy very fast. And if the spinal muscle atrophy, the horse has not the strength to do what? Bring the back up, hind leg underneath, be free on the forehand, but to elevate the horse's back, they need these muscles. Out of the side, right, they come around here, these are nerves, okay? Think about yourself like a funny bone. There is 6 funny bones on left and right side of the horse's spine where your saddle touches. So if your saddle is not wide enough in that channel, you're hitting all these funny bones, and you ride for half an hour before these nerves are numb and before the horse can bring his back up. So for the horse not to bring the back up can be quite detrimental, because what the topic we're talking right now is kissing spine. So here, let me show you this example. This is the horse's back, not just standing there looking out of the window. The second the horse puts the head down, the nuchal ligament system, that red stuff here, pulls that spine up. Here we pushed with our hands the spine up. And you see all the spaces up there?
Yeah.
So when I ride and sit, put weight on here, these will come and touch. And when they touch, that is kind of, I think we did that exercise last time where we pushed our hands together. Remember that, Shelby? And we had to do this. That hurts.
Oh yeah, like grinding them together.
Yeah, right. So that is really painful. So
yeah, it's insane how much they space out just from the horse stretching down. I didn't realize it was that drastic.
So check out the horse's cantering. If the back is up, look how much these bones are all separating. Okay, so the second you hit the reflex points on the horse's backbone, or this very narrow muscle on the spine of the horse, this is the multifidus. Okay, just because your channel is not wide enough, what will happen is the horse rubs all these bones. And you see how it looks like a candle where all the wax triggers down? So in order for the horse not to completely fall apart, and in order for the horse not to be able to run away from the monster or from the lion who wants to eat him, nature glues this together. This is all calcification. That means the bone grew bone and grew them together. So you can see this old horse here with this massive sway back.
Yeah.
But what is really problematic, these holes, see how big that hole is there and how small these holes get?
Yeah.
So when that grows together, this horse has kissing spine everywhere. And we all seen horses cantering. I have to shift this a little bit over here because here we go. Sometimes my computer acts up.
Yeah, no worries.
Here we go. So check out the movement of the horse's back. There's no elevation. The haunches, the hind leg, As I joint, nothing moves. Okay. See, the horse can still gallop, can still move, doesn't show lameness, shows an awkward 4-beat canter and head up, tails up. But that's a horse where the bones rub together or have already calcified. When you see this, most of the time, this is the wither bones. See how long they are?
Yeah.
So that is already a huge problem. For me as a horse owner who loves horses, you know, I can ride horses upside down. He has a nice fancy front leg and does the short trot. Hind leg is way out there, super hyperextended. We know it's everybody who can count to 4 knows that horse will not last more than 2 show seasons, if that, maybe 1. Because the suspensory cannot hold that amount of weight of the horse and the rider.
Yeah.
So that is first the horse breaks here, but slowly but surely all this here gets inflamed. Now the surgery, you can cut all this apart, okay? But you cannot open the holes anymore because that means going all the way through all these layers, all these muscles, and then you have to grind the hole open. You can't do it because there's nerves coming out, for the nerves not have pinching spine. So my point is, if I have horses with deformity, like this one, or kissing spine, whatever you do, because some horses you can still ride, okay? It's not like, okay, I have to shoot my horse. No. Same with humans, you don't have to shoot your horse.
Yeah. Or
the humans. But what you have to do is, by the love of God, stay away of his spine. So my recommendation, if you have a horse, you inherit him somewhere, or the horse over the years has been ridden like that, upside down, okay, and the bones have compensated and have now calcified, okay, and these holes getting smaller and smaller and smaller, okay. So at some stage, you cannot fix it. When they get pinched nerves, they fall over. You know, you want to put the horse saddle on and the whole horse falls on you. It's like super dangerous. So very often they recommend not to be ridden and sometimes euthanized. So it depends how worse the stage is of the kissing spine. But let's say it's just up here. It's been cut and surgery opened. Okay, it's just milder. The very first thing what I say to everybody, I don't care how expensive or how cheap the saddle is, money never makes a difference. Every saddle maker can make these panel a minimum from 10 centimeter wide. So the first thing you need to have a saddle on the horse where an entire male's fist is 4 inches wide. So if I make a fist from here to here is 4 inches or 10 centimeter. Okay, you got to have that space. Let me show you something else. Every army saddle and every soldier saddle, what has a Western saddle base like that, always has a man's fist space all the way through, because they know if there's weight going on the horse's back, we that sensitive space. Only in English saddles, in English saddle making, has been made this mistake that people make saddles with horrible narrow channels. So why do
they do that? Like, what's the purpose?
What's the purpose? Because I can sell people a false illusion. Because I can make saddles as a saddle maker and call it, oh, my saddle fits all. You've seen those typical French jumping saddles, turn them upside down, and you get no more than 2 fingers. We call those saddles a clothespin fit. Here's another one. Okay. This saddle literally fits on every horse. This saddle here, it's a polo saddle. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Why would that fit on every horse? Because let me get here's the vertebrae. Okay, it is really, really this way. You got the nerves coming out, but see how narrow this is, this top? So now there is muscles like my fingers. This is the multifidus muscle. So now think about this as the clothespin. It just snaps right on top.
Oh my God, yeah.
So now it can't go anywhere, and it will fit every horse because it just hits on that, well, spine, and then the saddle fits. So there's many manufacturers says my saddle fits all horses. Well, what really should be said, that saddle fits all horses, it snaps all horses' spine. It doesn't roll, it doesn't go from side to side.
Yeah.
It withers. But every saddle should be like the Western saddles where man's fist is in between here. You have a lot of horses to ride. I used to ride a lot of different horses. I was born into a billionaire family where I could afford every time a new saddle for the horse. So I had to go with 1 or 2 saddles for majority of the horses. So a professional can always use a half pad to help them make the fit a little bit better in between. But think about it. So more pads you put underneath, the smaller this gets.
Yeah.
So if you have one saddle with the wide spine and you have a horse with a narrow spine, it is way easier to have a nice thick pad underneath because this will get smaller. So to summarize up the question, super, super important. If you have a horse with kissing spine, for the love of God, please, please, please turn your saddle upside down, and it must be a nice wide channel.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's so sad that still so many companies are making the channel so narrow then.
They don't care. All what they care is selling. And once they have their money, they say, thank you.
Yeah.
And they're just loudmouth, ignorant, bastards, because they're doing that to fill their pocket, but cripple these horses. And please don't tell me they don't know. Okay? If I'm in an industry making saddles for animals who have feelings and have pain receptors like people, why? This is randomly available. You think these are my pictures? No, I get this from the website. I see this what medical doctors say. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit angry about the subject because I see it every time. Many customers and horses, customers suffered in the wallet, right? Because they keep paying for new horses and for the vet bills, and the horses pay with their life. Horrible, right?
Yeah, and then the owners don't actually want that to happen. Like they're not, like they go out and buy saddles because they're hoping that it'll be a good fit, and then they get scammed. So that's unfortunate. And then I think the next question that I had, well, and I guess we kind of in part covered this, but the question that I had written down would be like, what suggestions, like for riders who don't own the horse and aren't in complete control of the equipment they use on the horse, what suggestions would you give someone for like either talking to the owner or the lesson barn or trying to like make a saddle fit better with like the tools that they have if they're not in the position where they can control what the horse wears completely on their own? Because that's a question I got from a lot of people who are in lessons or lease horses, and they're just like, well, how can I talk to the owner of this horse, or how can I adjust what I use to try to make the horse's life better when I can't just get my own equipment for it?
Okay, so let me repeat the question so I make sure I understand. So customer taking lessons and they get to the barn. They don't have their own saddle and they don't bring their own saddle, but they want to make sure the horse they're leasing or riding will have a saddle that fits. Okay. So most of the time, places like this, they have multiple horses and multiple saddles. So we have a TikTok account what has, I think, close to 130 hits about how do I measure my saddle support area's length. So we have a lot of videos out there to make sure that the saddle fits behind the shoulder and not here on those sensitive lumbars. So the first thing I always recommend is ask them, do you have a saddle where I can put my fist in the middle, where this is nice and wide? And they show you 4 or 5 saddles, and let's say you find one. And then you're going to say, I would like to have a saddle. Let's say you're riding, let me find a horse, a particular horse, and everybody can do it. It's really not that difficult. It sounds difficult, but everybody can understand that the spinal width is important. But let's say you're looking at this black horse here on the side, okay?
Yeah.
Wherever the mane is, make a line. Either lick your thumb and go against the hairline, and wherever you see that shiny flank, there's shininess here and shininess there. Okay, depends how the light hits. The light hits directly from this side, and you can see shiny to shiny. Okay, if you would have the light coming from top, you would see the same space up there. Okay, so wherever that shiny line ends, make another line right there. And then that length you measure anywhere from 11 inch to 22 inches. Then you say, okay, I got the saddle, my horse is 16 inches. You put it on behind the mane, and look where it goes. It goes past the shiny line. It goes into the dark zone. So that dark zone, that saddle will hit these bones. Yeah. Just to give everybody a clear understanding, the really second to the spine is this super sensitive area. So here is that lumbar, the first lumbar. And this is the pen. Just to get you an idea how thin these bones are compared to a normal pen. Okay? So this, before you break that off on the horse, before you break a bone on the horse will go hollow, buckle, or super stiff. So here I am paying, I don't know how much money, part of the lesson program, and all my half of my lesson, let's say 45 minutes, for 20 minutes I have to ride my horse now because it's digging into the lumbar of the horse. That's crazy. So my recommendation, where a lot of horses are, where you lease them, where you get riding, figure out the length of the saddle. How do I do it? End of the mane to the shiny line. Okay. If you're really good, you can count the last rib, but that takes a little experience, and we have courses online where you can learn it. But the shiny line is something you most likely see faster than the one I was just referring to, right? This one here. Yeah. You've all seen it.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
So now comes the next part. If you have a saddle that is wide enough for the spine, and it's not too long, okay? The rest you can do with shim pads, because those shim pads will help you to balance the saddle, front to back, left to right. If the saddle is too narrow for the spine, you see those spinal versus processes. If you put pressure on that, the horse goes hollow. Kissing spine, here we go. If you put pressure here, the horse will go hollow. Super tight. If you put the saddle too far on the shoulder, you cripple the shoulder. So if I'm going and take downhill ski lesson, and I rent boots, I will never rent boots where my pinky is on top, my toes are literally like this here in the shoe, and my front toes are crunched in. The width of the boot got to fit. The length of my foot has to fit. Okay, the rest is color, choice, is the shoe warm or whatever. So if you think about, you would never do that to yourself. And riding and skiing is, in my eyes, the same. If I borrow equipment to go skiing, if I borrow a saddle, which is equipment to go riding, why would I cripple the horse and waste my hour riding lessons? Yeah. If the riding instructor or the company doesn't have equipment, right? If you got to have ski boots what cripple your feet, then go ahead and ski with shitty boots or ride with shitty saddles. My recommendation, most people who take riding lessons and most people who really, really love horses invest in a good used saddle, what has the right bottom, the right panel width, and they can take that saddle to whatever riding school they go and have then a good shimmable pad. I would recommend go with the professional tree. The professional tree, it's super wide in the tree width. You want to see if I have a good drawing for you guys?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, because that would also be more attainable too. Like if someone is riding a lot and they're serious and they have the means to get their own saddle, like knowing how to purchase the right saddle that they can get the most use out of on different horses is important too.
Like for me, if I constantly have to go skiing in shitty boots, then I'm going to buy myself on Facebook or on eBay some used boots, but at least fit my shoe size, you know? So my feet, my shoe size.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's the number one important for me if I go skiing or riding. So I think I got to show you a saddle to understand that better. Yeah, I'm going to show you a saddle.
That'd be perfect. Yeah.
So this saddle here, you see the D-ring on the side?
Yeah.
So from D-ring to D-ring.
Yeah, that's so narrow. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Put your hand in between, super narrow. So this is a narrow tree with a wide angle. So the tree, okay, this is the gauge. See how I make that angle wider?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the angle. That doesn't fit a lot of horses.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, so you can't put any, it pinches the spine, but this one here, from D-ring to D-ring, look how this. Yeah. I can easily put a shim pad in, and then the side, it's not flaring out, so it stops the saddle from rolling around. This is a professional fit. A professional fit is wide in the tree width and steep in the angle. That is how all these army saddles were based on it. If you're, of course, a person who likes to ride Icelandic horses or roly-poly Frisians, then that's a different story. But I'm talking about for people, we all know most horses come from the track and then get trained, and your normal warm blood, what has thoroughbred inside, you'll be surprised with a good shimmer pad, with the panel not being too long and the channel nice wide, get the Pro Fit. You get something anywhere from $1,000 upwards, which holds this value, and you enjoy your riding lesson so much more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, lesson saddles can be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you say it's not my horse, but if from D-ring to D-ring, there's one D-ring. Okay, if that's not wide enough, how is this bone? You're looking at the horse laying on the side, the skin is off. That shoulder wants to come back. How do you think this cartilage is all going to be crippled? Yeah. If you say, I don't care. I don't care because it's not my horse. Well, you will care if the horse falls on you or stumbles all the time, or you might be one of the person who enjoys riding without hurting the horse. So the shoulder, leg goes forward, shoulder goes back. It got to slide through the D-rings. Okay? It's super, super important that people understand any type of riding should be fun for the horse and the rider. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And then they'll be easier to ride too if they're comfortable. Oh. That's the other thing that a lot of people don't necessarily consider, is that a lot of behavioral problems aren't related to just the horse being bad. Shelby, you've been with horses all your life, and you know how much work it is around horses. Before you even to ride, how much work you put, and all the work you do, and all horse people, I'm talking to all horse people out there. We all know how much work we do in relation how much we ride. So when we actually get to ride, that's the highlight and the payoff to all the hard work we do. But if the riding becomes the worst part of the whole experience, I don't think this sport will last much longer if people has such a miserable time. Yeah, exactly. Well, and like even for me, like a lot of my problems with my old horse, like my Arab that I had first, like none of his saddles fit him. So like all of his problems were related to like stuff like that, and it made him a lot less enjoyable to ride, and we could have had less problems if I had known to like consider that at the time too. But I find that the hardest, because he tried his best. You know in your heart that horse did everything for you. Oh yeah, and like you feel so bad after, because you're like, wow, like considering they were like, they could have been so much worse. Yeah. So much worse, and then they just aren't. And most horses are like that, where they're so stoic to a fault and they're just willing to keep going. So it's really sad. I mean, these things here, horses are not bad behavior. Okay? If they bolt out of the sudden, and there was no cannon shot. There's nobody shot the horse with an arrow in the butt, or there's no balloon flying up. Why are they bolting all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so maybe just like you know, you have a lot of sensitivity on your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Horses have this spider web of information called the myofascia. They can feel the fly on their back.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you hit one of those reflex points, they just go. And imagine you have a beginner ride, and all of a sudden the horse takes off, and you wonder, oh no, my student.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then for the kids too, it kind of ruins their enjoyment of riding too if they don't get to actually enjoy riding horses and feel like safe on them. But yeah, that's a shame with a lot of lesson barns, is I've found that a lot of them have really old saddles and a lot of them have the super, super narrow channels. So it can be hard to find a good one that actually provides good equipment for their horses, but then their horses are always like nicer to ride if they actually meet their needs and fit them properly. So
what, you know what I always say to professionals? If I would buy shitty tools, my equipment, my saddles, my work will look shitty. If I'm a carpenter, a saddle maker, whatever. If I'm a golf pro, okay, and I got to play good, to stand in the rankings, or for people who come to me to listen, why would I play with shitty equipment just because I have a talent? So in any other sports except riding, the most professional say, oh, riding is expensive, I don't have the money. Okay? Yet they would make twice as much money if they have good equipment, because
yeah.
less veterinary bill, less horses who are off. Okay, it is so straightforward, which is really sad, because we are not moving as humans from what we hear. We're moving as humans when we have pain. Pain
Yeah.
and fear, it's the only way we move.
Yeah, that's true. It's unfortunate. So then I guess my next question that I would have too, we already like covered the saddle fitting for people looking to like fit lesson horses and whatnot. And then last time we also covered half pads. So I suppose we don't need to go over types of half pads that people can use. But like, are there any types of materials in like saddle pads or half pads that you would avoid using, or like certain styles of equipment that you would just say no one needs to use with a saddle, basically?
Yeah. I would recommend, do not buy saddle pads. Don't buy saddle pads what glue to the skin. There is this non-slip saddle pad, and it's a sticky material what literally grabs the coat of the horse. And if you ever had this, one hand is here, one is here, and they do this to your skin.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call it. And
yeah, so like it grabs their skin and pulls on it. So yeah, all of like the grip pads basically then with like this, it's like, yeah, the sticky stuff on the underside. So even like the gel pads then, like those ones that people use to prevent saddle slipping, those are those types that you're talking about as well too. Then
yeah, so directly to the hair. Think about yourself. Think about, you have to balance something on your head. The only way it holds it is that it grabs to your hair follicles. And every time it moves, somebody's pulling your hair. Your skin is so sensitive, it hurts like tremendously.
Yeah.
Right? So number one, do not get any stuff what grabs the hair follicle, because the biggest organ on your horse is the skin.
Yeah.
Right? And anybody who had organ problems, we know. So just to give you an idea, the thickness of the horse's skin is 0.05 millimeter, and on the human, 0.08 millimeter. So the humans have a thicker skin than the horses. That's interesting, right? But the horse have more hair, and these hair follicles will go through here. Here, the top layer of hair has already been removed. But every time the hair gets pulled back and forth, left to right, and all that stuff, that skin will be under attack. Okay, so it starts getting all these wrinkles here. Or we've seen that before, the white hair. So the other material I would highly recommend to stay away from is anything what is plastic. Here's kind of the gel thing we were talking about, what sticks to the horse. Okay? Anything that pulls like an elastic band over the longest bone of the horse. This is the longest bone of the horse at the back. So this entire skin drapes like a tent over the top of the highest bone. So I'm going to show you something here with my hands. So this is everybody has fingers, and you see this extra skin. So if I bend my finger, the extra skin is smooth.
Yeah.
If I have something now what pulls this down, now it's smooth. And now if I bend it, you see the red stuff coming there?
Yeah.
So that's the fluid between the skin and the bone. And some horses have this bubbles on the skin.
Oh, really?
So
yeah. I've never
saddle pads, what do not are shaped like a spine, or saddle pads what go over the horse's withers and pull down. You should be fair to the horse, and you should ride with braiding elastic. You know those small braiding elastics you can get?
Yeah.
So you should put them around each of your fingertips when you ride. So you know, no, it cuts off my circulation.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think this does? Right? This is like a guaranteed kissing spine machine. Okay, this here gets absolutely your horse hollow. And last not least, so these are the blisters I was telling you about. Yes.
Okay. Are they like, if you touch them, are they like the spots on the back that are dense, or are they fluidy?
They're fluidy, and the horse doesn't react to it. And after 20 minutes riding, it's gone.
Okay.
So if they come to the top, you're super lucky. If they go to the inside, to the spinal nerves, that's it. Game over. Right? So that's then, oh, my horse is wobbler, oh, he's EPM, oh, he's unrideable. Well, very simple. Avoid any kind of a mass force onto that skin to the bone. Very, very simple. Okay, so last not least, the material I recommend not to use. This is real sheepskin, but there's many pads out of sheepskin, they're fake. And if you have a balloon and you wrap your balloon over your hair, you get that staticky. And that's what the horse will have. It's kind of like mini shocking points the horse gets. So stay away from material that cause the horse to overheat, to grip the hair follicle, or electrify the hair follicle. Natural, cotton, felt, or leather. Everything else, sheepskin is good. Everything else, that's my recommendation. Stay away.
Okay. And then with the straps too, like with the billet straps, like on the navy pad, do you not like the straps that kind of Velcro through the billets, like the top ones by the wither, or do you recommend pads with that?
So if the pad like this one has a nice contour, and on top this here is really not useful. You don't really need it. The only reason you need it is because your saddle fitting is so bad and your saddle is rocking so much that we call it literally eats the saddle pad. So what's happening, the saddle rocks so much it drives the saddle pad underneath away and it slides out of the back. So you can say as a manufacturer, if I put this on here and it loops around to the billet, this saddle pad doesn't go anywhere. But you still have the problem.
Yeah.
A good saddle pad doesn't go anywhere. You don't need the top, you don't need the bottom, you know, if it fits right. I do like the bottom because there's a lot of action, a lot of motion in jumping or dressage. But sometimes what I be really, really careful that these loops are in the wrong spot.
Okay.
Let's say the girth needs to go here. The billets of your saddle goes here. So you got to go backwards and then forward. So your billet does this funny C shape.
Yeah.
And then it drives this pad underneath and drives the saddle into the shoulder. So I would recommend always let your billets hang through. Maybe you just put the back billet through here.
Yeah.
You just need one billet through it, or none. So these are good questions, Shelby, because pads.
Yeah, that's stuff that I didn't even consider, like the material and stuff, because I think most people would think that like a saddle pad can't really make a difference, you know, since 100%. It's such a small piece.
Like imagine you have to ride with underwear would keep you riding up to you, or you're super uncomfortable.
Or saddle burns and stuff. Yeah, most people would probably get it where if you ride in jeans or shorts or something, you can get saddle rubs from where the seam sits on those pants.
And it's just a soft cloth. How can that be so bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then with these pads too, do you like the thin line half pads, or does it depend on if they're the sheepskin ones or not?
The thin line, I like the very much so. We find a foam similar to the thin line. What they use in all sports equipment, you know, in ice hockey and in football, in cars, everywhere. It's as thin as a credit card. You put a piece of glass underneath, you hit it with a hammer, and the glass will not shatter.
That's insane.
Insane, this foam. And I like it better than the thin line because it's thinner. The foam breathes, so the air comes through. Because another problem with pads is if you have these pads, even they have holes and holes on top, okay, they create a lot of heat because heat rises. And imagine you have to ride in plastic cover jackets. Your skin is constantly wet, everything shaves, everything becomes a problem. So sweat, it's good to cool. But if it's constantly wet, imagine you have to have constantly running around with wet pants, wet socks. Yeah. You know, it's cause a long-term problem. So I like those thin lines, but now the new pads what come out, what have 3 distinct pockets. I have one of those here. Okay, they have a non-slip pad on top. Mm-hmm. So the pad doesn't slip around. You see there are no loops on it here where you have to worry about it. Fits through here. And then you have 3 pockets, one in the middle, one in front, one in the back. And there's the base layer is this foam I was just telling you. Super thin, cool. Super thin. And it takes a lot of precaution because let's face it, if everybody can get their saddle fit 4 times a year, we solve the problem. But that's not realistic. Right? They don't have the time, the money, the professionals around, and you got to have something to get to it. And for me, that used to be a very good pad. I like to go to pads what's thinner, lighter, and more effective. These pads are the guaranteed tree breakers, because if you just lift up the front, again, this here, it's just made out of a gel. It put massive pressure on the spine, creates huge kissing spine problems. And again, you need to ride with elastic band around your fingertips so you feel what the horse feels. It lifts the saddle up in the front, it bridges this in the middle, and then the saddle will twist or break. Okay, if you have a common wood tree saddle, same with these lollipops they used to call them, or cantle raisers. Yeah. What do? They take all the spinal clearance away. Here we go. You hit the nerves. Yeah. They lift up the cantle and the saddle is in the middle hollow and the tree breaks. So everybody who makes a living repairing broken tree loves those pads because they keep you in business forever. Okay, so these are, here's other pads. Okay, this gradually goes down to nothing. I like that nice shape. But again, it creates massive heat because you can't, you trap the heat. It can't rise. Here they have a little bit. Okay? But every time you put any pads in the center, all these spinal nerves gets hit. Again, you don't need a lot of pressure. Same pressure what you need to break an egg yolk on an egg, sunny side up. When you hit that nerve, like you hit your funny bone, you instantly react. And that's what the horse goes through for the first 20 minutes. If you put anything on the back, what decreases the space between the 2 stuffed panels, what we call the gullet. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got to stay off these bones. 1, 2, 3, and then the nerves and the muscle there. Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, and like with the material and stuff, I think it's just, people never hear anyone talking about it. So then you don't really think, like, I guess if you're using like foam pads and stuff, you don't necessarily consider the lack of like sweat wicking or like heat release and the other stuff problems that they cause. So it's really good to know because a lot of that stuff I hadn't considered in terms of material for the saddle pads and the half pads.
I think what is our duty as horse owners, we take them out of the natural environment, right? And then we protect them. We as horse owners make sure they have food, they have shelter, and they're looked after. And most people do that with passion and they love their animals. But my favorite saying is the person who knows the how will always follow the person who knows the why. This is why when you ask me a question, I also like to explain the why. Okay. That
Exactly.
way, every single one of our listeners can say, yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to ride with elastic bands around my fingertip. That's horrible. Why would I do that to my horse? Or,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to have shoes where I constantly have blood blisters on my toes and they're crunched in the front. Why would I do that to my horse? Right? So
Exactly.
hopefully that helps the way we do this here, you and me together, to
Yeah, I
help.
think it does for sure. Because like I've had a lot of people say, especially the way you explain things, even if like if it's different in that like sometimes people will just say what their opinion is and be like, oh, these saddle pads suck, and then people get defensive
Yeah,
and they choose not to believe it, and then they never look further into it. But when someone actually takes the time to be like, these are why these saddle pads aren't the best, and here are some alternatives, then it makes people less defensive and they tend to actually listen. Or even if they don't listen right away, it's in the back of their mind and they're thinking about it the next time they choose to get a new half pad or something. Because I think most people do want to do what's best for their horse, but there's just so much misinformation out there that it can be really hard for people to understand like what the right way actually is when there's so many people spreading like untrue information or doing like a really, really good job of marketing bad equipment, but
that's right.
having an amazing marketing team.
Yeah.
And
My
yeah,
dream is that I can give everybody this tool because
oh yeah,
it's an app for free. And then this year you just slide on top of the girth and it
cool.
measures the heart rate, the calorie burn, the gait analysis, the cadence, elevation, trot symmetry, how high your horse jumps. So you know how you can buy the Fitbits or
Yeah,
those Apple Watches that measures your pulse? Imagine you have something for your training.
yeah,
Imagine
that'd be
you have
insane.
some smart salesman comes and tells you that's the best saddle, blah, 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 or the best girth. And you buy it because he's good, smart marketing. And then you have this, and then you ride your horse. And then you know, holy shit, look at his heart rate is up. You know,
Yeah,
his pulse is through the roof. And we know when that happens, not because I galloped him just for 3 miles flat out, just by doing a little trot once around the
mm-hmm.
arena, he's like, his eyes pop out of his socket. And you look at your Fitbit and says, my horse is in severe stress. And all I changed is this new magic girth or this new saddle. Imagine everybody has this tool. No
Mm-hmm.
horse will ever be, or no owner will ever be fooled with stupid marketing or greedy
Yeah.
salespeople.
So
That
is
would
this
be awesome.
something you've released now then, or is it
I
something that's in
used
the
this
works?
tool for a long time. The first one I bought was for 795 euros,
Oh wow.
and it's made in France. The Voltaire company had that built in their saddles for a
Yeah,
while. But just like anything else, you have now cameras the size of your dress button, like on the shirt.
yeah.
Technology is so fantastic, and they come up with a new thing. It's down now, I believe, for 240 euros.
Oh
So that's
nice.
approximately $500. So that's a lot of money for people to do.
Yeah.
Not everybody buys the Fitbit, but I guarantee you, if we wait a couple more years, that price will come down again.
Yeah.
Other people will have it.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
that would be really cool because so far we only say, oh, I think something is wrong when we see this white hair, biting horses, dry spots, severe inflammation in the
Yeah.
withers or in the shoulder. That's when the owner reacts. Okay. When the horse gets dissected and we see all the crib, that's too late.
Yeah.
When the horse gallops like this, it's too late. Okay. So not a lot of people, you do, but not a lot of people know that this horse here is in severe stress.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah. That's the other problem is the behavior signals. I don't find like most training barns, like and even places that I've trained with, they won't consider these behaviors as related to the saddle fit or other problems. They'll just be like, oh, they're being bad, get after them.
see, when I looked at your first online presence, and I could see you have so much fun when you work with your horses and your horses
Yeah.
too. You know, you guys have such a cool connection. And I guarantee you, people who are like so in tune like you would hate riding a horse what kills you before you get
Oh
on the horse.
yeah.
Who wants that?
Yeah, no, it's awful. Well, and that's what happened with Milo recently, because after we went on a terrible trail ride that he found exceptionally stressful, and I couldn't change it because we were lost. So he just had to deal with it. But then after that, he was so bad to ride to the point where I'd like get on and then I would be like, okay, like this sucks. So I'm just going to put him away. And then we scoped him for ulcers because I was like, this is not normal. And sure enough, he's ulcers. So we're treating him for ulcers. But a lot of people, if I'd gone to a lesson, they probably would have been like, oh, just like whip him and get after him and make him go forward. And I was like, you know, like, I don't think he's just saying no for the sake of saying no. But so many people don't necessarily do that because they just want to get to like the end goal. And I get that, but it's so frustrating to just constantly be fighting with your horses.
Shelby, I always said that when we talk, you and me, we could be twins. You know, you think like me, you have that intuition, and most people don't know. But the reason why the horse eats 17 hours a day is they create that saliva. That saliva breaks down colic and ulcers.
Oh yeah.
When I ride and the horse doesn't have a soft rein, he's chewing and lipping, he's soft through the pool, he creates a nice trough. And I'm not talking the sugar trough, what you give him an artificial chewing. Okay, so a horse what is in stress doesn't have any foam. Without the foam, I don't have the anti-acid. What creates, without the acid, your risk of ulcers and the risk of colic is through the roof.
Oh yeah.
Now, I'm a horseback rider, horse lover, saddle maker. How do I all know this? Because I wanted to know the why. I ask all these questions from osteopaths, clinical, like veterinarians who study this left, right, center, biomechanic experts. So for me as a saddle maker, before I get my tools out, I watch a person ride. No trough. I got to figure out why.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the teeth and the bad training and the bad riding, the bad bits. I get all that. But I always give the customers the benefit of the doubts and says, I think they all love their horse and they do the best they can. But that stupid saddle fitting issue, the different opinions, like we started it today really cool with the kissing spine, because the first thing everybody needs to know, get off their spine.
Yeah.
And the spine and these tiny little muscles on the sides, that's 10 centimeter wide. If you figure that out, get off the back. The backbone, you cannot touch that. Right? You cannot put that force there. And for me, I see too many horses. It makes me cry every time I have to talk about this horses, because there's so many horses who are checked out. Right? Their soul left. They're just moving flesh, and they have no more life and no more soul. The eyes are dead because they're slowly but surely crippled and abused, and unfortunately unintentionally. People don't do that purposely to animals.
No, and I don't think, no one wants their horse to like be in mental distress, I don't think. But so many people don't realize that like when they go into learned helplessness and they go through all the motions, they do everything you ask them and they're still doing their job, they take that as like good training. But then if you like look at the horse, you can see that the horse is like not there at all. And they just don't know. Yeah.
For you, I bet you it's like somebody stabbing you in the heart, right?
Oh yeah. I hate going to ride horses like that. And then basically when I do, all of the work I do with them is just trying to get them to have a personality again and like reward them for communication, because they're also the most dangerous horses you can sit on, because eventually you'll come across something that they finally react to fearfully. And then when they do react, it's such an absurdly large, dangerous reaction that everyone gets hurt. So they're no fun to work with.
So I would post this link here on your blog, because this lady here wrote an ethogram, so the facial expression of a horse when a horse is in pain. If everybody would understand that, then it's not from a saddle maker. Dr. Sue Dyson is one of the highest researchers, because that's how it starts. Hey, my dream was to have that Fitbit for horses, but that's a while. There's too many horses still, because there's more than just these signs.
Yeah.
Right. And
there's different grades of like the same thing happening. And then also like, that's why it's good Sue Dyson did the ethogram. And also she has really good lameness videos on YouTube that I was watching as well. But it's hard because there's things that are contextual too, that people need to learn how to like assess the situation and then be like, oh, the horse is probably reacting because of like this, and this, and this is what it means. But people aren't taught that enough, I find. Like riders are taught how to be riders, but they're not taught how to be horsemen enough. Because that's reading behavior. And
100%. I mean, most people get excited when you win, when you a competition. If it's a racetrack, is it a dressage, endurance, everybody wants to be part in the winner's circle. And that's the ultimate goal. But the true horse person, the majority of the people who have horses, they love their horse. Every day is a winning situation for them. And when they get to the barn, they just want to hug and cuddle them and love them.
Yeah,
I firmly believe that. And sure, winning is great, but the harmony between horse and human is so incredible. And we need to protect that by educate them. Let them know you do a good job, but there's more to know. So just check it out.
Yeah, for sure. That's like the best way to make change, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's helped for me because once you educate yourself more too, you can't go into denial as much and you can't have so much cognitive dissonance. You have to start actually addressing situations instead of ignoring them. So.
Oh my God, that was so well said. This is so true. So true what you just said.
Yeah, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know is what I found. Because like when I was the most ignorant and resistant to education, it was because I wasn't educated. And then as soon as I started getting educated, I was like, oh no, like these are all these things that I did wrong. And then, but it's also freeing to just look at your mistakes and be like, okay, like I did that, but like, how can I do it better now? And then address it then.
I remember back then when I had super stress with my family, or I had a fight with my best friend or with my girlfriend, what always got me back was my horse. And sometimes I just took him for a hike and just like Michelle here, sits on the rock and watch him graze.
Yeah.
And just connect with them on a different level. And I don't know how you feel, but they have another sense we don't. And they always look after you. You were talking earlier, there can be some difficult or vicious, but they do it because they're in pain. And majority, they look after you, they protect you.
They're very naturally gentle animals. Like I noticed it even like with all of my horses, they're young and they're silly and they're playful. And sometimes they can invade people's space because of it. But anytime, like my brother just had a baby with his girlfriend, and anytime the baby's out there, they're so gentle to like the point where like Milo will let him grab his nostrils and like go like this. And I'm like, you would not let me do that. But it's like they realize, oh, this is a tiny person. We need to be nice. And
that's so cool. Yeah. I love how we ended up today with this nice picture, because it's all about that.
Yeah, exactly. And these things are so helpful for people like achieving a better relationship with their horses, because they could fix some problems that are minor in terms of like what you need to do to address them, but then have huge changes because of it. And that's all I can hope for, is like having people develop that relationship with their horse where they start to look at the behaviors, and instead of being like, they're being bad, we need to punish this, they ask like, why are they doing this? And then address the why rather than just the symptom of the why.
Well, for anybody who loves to learn more, my book is on Amazon, Suffering and Silence. And again, it was a pleasure talking to you. And in case I don't speak to you, have a great holiday. Merry Christmas.
You too. Thank
Happy
you.
New Year. Stay healthy.
Everyone stay healthy. And also check out the Saddle Fit for Life pages, everyone, because there's a lot of good things online too that you can read on there as well. I always am on that page. But thank you again for doing this. We always learn so much, and people are really appreciative of having the chance to listen to someone talk and get this much information for free. So it means a lot, and it's very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you so